In this video, I'm going to talk about steps 2, 3, and 4 for how to make a great human. Emotional expression, perspective taking, and fostering a growth mindset. Welcome to A Curious Life, where I talk about business, technology, storytelling, and life in general. Number 2, encourage emotional expression. In our family, we call this big feelings. If you have an emotion about something, you want to experience that emotion. You don't really understand why you're having the emotion. It takes us years, sometimes even long into adulthood, before you ever really understand, like, wow, that sucked. I don't know what I was feeling there. And we are constantly struggling with it. The worst possible thing you could do is deny it, is say, oh, don't be emotional. We're not robots. You know, we all have logic and we all have critical thinking, and that's important. That's a part of our lives that's very important. But the emotional stuff, it also informs how we make decisions. So it shouldn't be discarded. It shouldn't be suppressed. I feel like it's an integral part of who we are, and the sooner we can accept that, the better. So what we do in our house is we give it a name. We say it's okay to have big feelings. You know, you have to think it through. You have to feel the emotions. So we create we try to anyway, a very safe and supportive environment so that if our kids ever need to have that moment where they need to shed, they need to get it off their chest, it's okay. That's completely acceptable. What's not acceptable is to make it go on and on and on and on for hours and drag everyone through hell while you're trying to process your emotions. You know, there's a limit to our own abilities as humans to accept someone else's issues. One of the things that we do is that we try very hard to listen actively and then repeat back to the person whatever it is that they're feeling, so that they feel truly understood. So listening actively, instead of listening and trying to respond as you're listening, you just listen. You are an open book. You are fully present in the moment. You are listening to that person. Your eyes are totally on them. It's a little intense. Doesn't have to be looking right at them. You can be, honestly, I listen by kind of looking off to the side. I have to, because it's the only way I can really focus on the words. Truly actively listening makes the other person feel heard, and restating what they're saying also makes them feel like, okay, this person gets what I'm feeling, gets what I'm thinking, whatever it is. Offering that as a validation is super, super important, especially for kids. And then just responding with empathy. Say, I know that must be really hard for you. I can imagine how that would be difficult. Do you want to talk about a solution, or you just want to get it off your chest? And we can just we can carve out a little space. We respect it by giving it some time and some energy. And then if you want to talk about solutions, we can talk about solutions or not. Up to you. That's the most important thing about having an emotional moment. You can have it. It's okay. You should feel safe. You should feel encouraged to express yourself in that way to a point. And then let that person feel heard, restate what they're feeling, and then move on. Number 3, perspective taking. So this is more about empathy. It's super important to understand someone else's perspective by imagining what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're experiencing. A really good way for kids to understand, once they can read, a really good way is to get them to read a lot of books. It's been shown that the more books you read, the more perspectives you're able to put on, like a suit, to see through someone else's eyes. Definitely encourage reading. And here's a pro tip for you that I heard from a friend of mine. You know, you can go to the library and check out 50 books at once. So do that. Choose 50 books, go to the librarian if you want to, and say, hey, look, we really liked this book. What other books would be like it? Or you can go on Amazon and say, you know, what else did people buy? And then you check out 50 books, have them read the first few pages of each, and whichever one catches their fancy, they can read it. maybe they'll read the next chapter. If they like the next chapter, they can read the whole book. But the point is, it's exposure, it's getting them to read and encourage them to see the world through other people's eyes. They're kids, so developmentally, you have to meet them where they're at, and they may not be ready yet. I can't remember exactly what the ages are, but sometimes they're just too young. They're very ego-centered, and this is my world. Number 4, foster a growth mindset. This is one of my favorites. It took me years to understand that failing is not a personal failure. It doesn't equate to personal failure. It's a setback. You have to reframe the things that happen to you that are bad as opportunities to grow. There's a book by Sally Hogshead called Radical Careering, and she says in that book, failure is life's tuition. I like to reframe that as you either get the results you want or the lessons you need. Expecting that everything is going to work out is obviously unrealistic. You're going to have some failures, some things that fall short to where you want to be. That's okay. So understand that when kids are trying to do something, they should see those as opportunities to grow, to learn. What have you learned? What opportunity can you gain new knowledge about here? Failure doesn't define us. It informs us. Helping kids embrace challenges, and when they do things right, to praise their efforts. It's not really about how intelligent they are or how talented they are, but how quickly they can learn from the mistakes that they make along the way. And also understanding about achieving realistic goals, helping them set I want to become, the first person to land on Mars. Probably not going to happen, but maybe let's try and get into NASA. That's a more realistic goal. Then, the rest will take care of itself. But let's set a realistic goal. What do we need to accomplish? Understanding that growth is a journey rather than a destination. You are always growing. You are gonna fail. That's okay. As I heard Denzel Washington say, fall down 7 times, get up 8. That's a growth mindset. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, make sure you check out the next video in the series by clicking on the subscribe link below. If you have any questions, or maybe I forgot something, go ahead and type it in the comments and I'll try and reply if I can. And until next time, make sure you remember the ABCs of life. Always be curious. See you next time.